System dynamics. What is it, and why should we be teaching this to our secondary school students? How can it help us to better understand the behavior of systems? Let's begin by recalling some characteristics of complex systems. A system has elements, interconnections, and overall functions. Like a football team, the elements are the individual players. They act in concert. They are interconnected in their actions to perform an overall function of achieving a goal. Often, systems contain feedback, and those systems can generate unintended consequences. A systemic problem can also have multiple potential solutions, and almost always involve multiple subject areas. They can be understood from multiple viewpoints. The boundary of a system's problem can fluctuate depending upon the focus of the problem. And of course, complex systems change over time. That is, they are dynamic. A quick example from ecology might involve the relationship between a predator, its prey, and the food source for the prey. These elements are connected by feedback loops. That is, the number of predators and the number of prey are intertwined. More predators mean less prey, and less prey mean fewer predators. If the predator starts looking for supplemental food in nearby livestock, a rancher gets involved. Extra permits from the Fish and Wildlife Department are obtained, but fewer predators create more prey, and more prey creates less vegetation, an unintended consequence. A potential solution is to introduce another predator for the prey, which may allow the system to reach a new balance, which could be acceptable. So how can system dynamics help? System dynamics provides us a method for analyzing these complex systems. It uses computer simulation to capture the systemic problem, setting up a structure that produces that problem. And it allows us to add structure to the model for potential policies that could be tested, because unfortunately, current policies often produce unexpected and troublesome behavior if they are not tested on the system in some way before they are implemented. System dynamics provides a method for analyzing the structure of these systems that produce undesirable behavior, and then allows us to test possible solutions that can inform policy recommendations. Previous tools are insufficient for these problems. Bar-Em says that we have to develop an entirely new set of concepts to study the behavior of systems. It changes the nature of questions that we ask about the behavior of the system. It changes how we think. Secondary school students can build system dynamics models to study complex systems. This has actually been done in the United States and in some other places for over 20 years. Students really shine when building models in a system dynamics modeling course where they can choose their own topics. But before we get to that point, let's talk for a minute about how to read a system dynamics model. There are only 4 icons. The rectangle icon is called a stock. It is the main variable in the system whose value we want to track over time. Its value increases or decreases over time. The flow is drawn with the arrowhead either pointing toward or away from the stock. If the arrowhead is pointing toward the stock, it increases the stock value, as births would increase a population stock. If the arrowhead is drawn away from the stock, it decreases the stock value as deaths would do to a population. Converters and connectors will be explained in context shortly. Here we have a stock of water in a tank, which is increased by water flowing from the faucet and decreased by water being pumped out of the tank. If the inflow is larger than the outflow, the water in the tank will increase. One more simple model will help prepare you for some examples still to come. This example is familiar to almost everyone. Most bank accounts increase the money they contain by having additional money added periodically in the form of interest. Interest is calculated as a percent of the amount of money currently in the account. But to calculate how much the interest amount, the money to add, should be, the flow interest added must know how much money is in the bank account. So we connect the stock to the flow using a connector, this red arrow, to send the information, numerical information, from the stock to the flow. One more piece of information is still missing. To calculate the interest amount, we need to know the percent of interest, or the interest rate that the bank offers. So we need a place to hold the interest rate. We place a converter, a circle, in the model and place the interest rate value in it. We then connect this value to the flow using another connector. Now the flow has two values it needs: how much money is in the account and the interest rate. The flow multiplies those values together and adds that new value to the money in bank stock value. So take a look for a minute at particular numbers. Assume the account starts with $100 and grows at 5% compounded annually. After 1 year, the bank will add 100 times 0.05 or $5 to the account, and the account will contain $105. After the second year, the bank will add 105 times 0.05 or $5.25 to the account, and the account will contain $110.25. The money in the bank account will grow at an exponential rate. There are some core principles that guide system dynamics modeling analysis. The first and critical one is that the structure of the model will determine the behavior of the model. The model is used to try to replicate a problem within a system that we want to address, so we assume the structure of the system is producing the problem behavior. The second very important core principle in system dynamics is that the message of the system is always in the feedback. Secondary school students have learned to create original system dynamics models from news articles of interest to them. They read the article and start to create stock flow diagrams to capture the system behavior of interest. They build, debug, and test the models and analyze the feedback in the model to explain the model behavior. Here is an example of one student's original model. Joseph, an 18-year-old secondary school student, created a model to capture the problem that occurred in 2007-2008 when oil prices rose and everyone was trying to buy a hybrid electric car. His model has three main segments: the capacity of the current factories to produce hybrid cars, the supply chain of hybrid cars from factories to hybrid cars sold, and the backlog of orders for hybrid cars that end up affecting the price of cars and the actual cars sold. The behavior of the model is shown in this graph. At quarter 10, there is a spike in hybrid car demand. That causes a spike in the backlog of hybrid cars orders, which increases the price of the cars. Note that this model was not started in a steady state situation. So quarters 1 through 9, those results are not shown, but they look just like the results shown for quarters 10 through 18. Another student who created an original model for his modeling project. In other classes, he says, I am often asked to posit logical solutions to problems or am given the solution reached by other people. Using models of complex systems, I can test out my own theories and confirm those of others, instead of faithfully accepting them as fact. Where other classes ask me to memorize, this one dares me to explore. For teachers who are interested in trying this type of modeling with their students, either at the secondary school level or the undergraduate university level, there are resources available. There are online system dynamics courses for teachers who want to learn to do this. There are sample student models, technical papers, and videos available on my website. And there is an alignment of the system dynamics with the United States National Education Standards in the disciplines of mathematics, science, technology, social science, health, economics, and 21st century skills. Again, available on my website, www.ccmodelingsystems.com. Additionally, Creative Learning Exchange also has some free modeling lessons that are available on their website. We are very fortunate that IC Systems has created a free web-based version of the Stella modeling software that is available for teachers at publish.icsystems.com. If you create a free account, you can have access to this software. It only allows 12 icons in a model, but that is quite enough to get started for many beginning modeling experiences. Thank you.